All right, let's bring that jury. You have your next witness ready? They can come on in? Okay, good. No, he stays there until Mr. McKeon, you said you're through with him, right? That's correct. Yeah, all right, so everybody's had 2 shots, I think.
President, Your Honor.
Thank you. The objection is sustained. Anything further, Mr. McKeon?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. You may step down.
Thank you, sir.
Call your next witness.
Yes, sir, Your Honor. Before we call our next witness, I would offer State's Exhibit 243, which the defense and the state have agreed are the records of the Sprint Corporation, the cell phone calls of Walter Scott on the morning of April 4th, I believe without objection.
Defense?
That's correct.
All right, it's admitted without objection.
State calls Anthony Scott.
Do you swear affirm the testimony you share in the court and the jury in the trial of this case to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your first and last name and spell your last name loudly and clearly into the microphone.
Anthony Scott, S-C-O-T-T.
Anthony, you go by Tony or Anthony or both?
Both.
Okay. How old are you?
I'm 53. I'll be 54 in 2 weeks.
Where are you from?
I'm from Charleston, South Carolina.
Lived here your whole life?
Most of my life I went to college in Charlotte, and I spent 8 years there.
Okay. Where'd you go to high school?
St. Andrews High School, The Rocks.
And where are you working now?
I work at Robert Bosch. I've been there for 23 years.
Are you married?
I am.
How long have you been married?
27 years.
How many children you have?
We have 3 kids,
Okay. Who are your parents, Anthony?
Judy and Walter Scott.
And you have siblings?
Yes, we have 3 kids.
Okay. And who were they?
Milford, who's 28, Alexandra, who's 26, and Manuel, who's 24.
Okay, so those are your children.
Yes.
Do you have brothers?
Oh, yes, I do have brothers.
And who are your brothers?
I had 2 brothers.
Okay.
I have 1 brother now who's Rodney Scott. Walter Scott is my younger brother.
Okay. So you were the oldest?
I am the oldest.
And then Walter Lamar?
Yes,
And then Rodney?
and then Rodney.
Did you call, who we've called Walter, did you call him Walter?
We call him Lamar.
Okay.
Well, I wasn't seeing him on the regular, but we would talk at least once every 2 weeks.
On the telephone?
On the telephone, yes.
And were you aware that he was having some car issues?
I was aware that he was having some car issues.
And do you remember the last time you talked to Lamar?
Absolutely. I talked to him the Wednesday night before the 4th. The 4th was that Saturday, and that Wednesday night me and him had a conversation.
Okay. And you seem excited?
A little excited. We had just been together and celebrated my mom's 50th anniversary the weekend before.
Okay.
And we also had been to a party, and that was the last time we had a really great time, a great weekend actually.
Okay. And did he mention anything to you regarding this car?
Yes, he did. He told me that I got a car. And for some reason, I said, tell me you're not talking about a Benz.
A Benz? A
A
Mercedes?
Benz. I said Benz. Tell me you're not talking about a Benz.
Did you know that his across the street neighbor, Arthur Hayward, had a Mercedes-Benz?
I knew nothing. No, I didn't.
But you just said, tell me it's not a Benz.
That's what I said.
Did you ask him about his child support situation?
Yes, after he sent me the text and showed me that it was a Benz, and I saw the Benz, I was very troubled because I said, that's a Mercedes-Benz, you live in North Charleston, and you know that's a highly profiled area. And I don't think that's a very wise thing to do. And me and him never had discussed his child support issue, and I asked him, are you current?
Was he current?
He said he was not.
And so, when you saw the car, you saw the big rims,
Yes,
and kind of like a red sports car, you thought it
Yes.
would be a Magnet.
absolutely.
You told him that.
Yes, I did.
And with him not being current on his child support, you told him what about that?
I told him I didn't think it was a very good idea, and he needed to reconsider even buying that car because of this living in North Charleston.
All right, so let's go to April 4th.
Yes.
You mentioned that you had talked to him on that Wednesday. Did y'all have plans for that Friday night?
We did have plans for that Friday night, but they didn't come through.
What were you supposed to do?
We were going to hang out. We were going out to Hollywood to a friend's house of his, and they were going to have crabs and things like that.
Okay, but you didn't go.
No, we didn't go.
Don't know if he went.
I don't know if he went.
So moving on to Saturday the 4th, when was it that you realized something had gone wrong with Lamar?
I realized something had gone wrong with Lamar when I got a telephone call from my mother.
Okay.
She called me and she was very upset.
And do you remember about what time that was?
I'm not sure, but it had to have been around 9:30, 10 o'clock,
Okay.
somewhere in that neighborhood.
Did she ask you to do anything?
Yes, she did.
And what was that?
She asked me to go check on my brother because he was in a traffic stop. But before that happened, she told me to contact my nephew. And
That's little Lamar?
that's Lil Lamar, and talk to him because he was already on the scene.
Okay. Now, your brother being stopped for a traffic stop, why did that call for you to go out to the scene? I mean, people get stopped for traffic stops all the time.
Well, number one, it was in North Charleston, and we know that that's a highly
Let's not get into that.
Okay.
What did your mother say that made you go to the scene?
She didn't actually say a taser was used at that time, but she was saying that it was something happened with the taser.
Okay,
And then when I got on the phone with my nephew, that's when he clarified it for me.
okay. And so you went out to the scene,
I did.
and little Lamar was there,
Yes, he was.
and police were there?
Yes, they were.
Where was it that you went?
I went to Montague. I went up Montague Road, and they'd already told me where it was. And when I saw the vehicle and I saw the tape around the car, I knew it wasn't a good scene.
Okay. And did you stay out there for quite a while?
When I got there about 11 or 12, I was there until they removed the police tapes.
Okay. And And did you stay right there at the auto parts place?
I stayed right in the vicinity of the area the whole time because you couldn't go anywhere. And I wanted to see him. I wanted to see him.
Okay. So did you ever leave where the auto parts store was?
I never left the area but one time. Yes, I did. I walked around the police tape and stayed outside.
Around the block?
Almost around the block, yes. Almost, I stayed outside of the police tape. And I walked where I could see the canopy. And when I could see the canopy, I pulled up my cell phone and I proceeded to take pictures of the canopy. And I made my screen as big as I could get it to take the pictures. And I proceeded to take pictures. I was outside of the perimeter. There was a fence separating me and where the scene actually took place.
So you didn't go?
I did not go. I did not go over to the yellow road. I stayed outside of the fence, outside of the tapes.
And did someone take your phone?
At that time, 4 North Charleston policemen came and surrounded me, and they took my phone.
Did you ever get it back?
Yes, I did get my phone back. After some hours, Chief Driggers came through, and when Chief Driggers came through, he asked me if there's anything he could do. And I said, yes, sir, I need my phone back.
And he got it back to you?
And he got it back to me.
It wasn't tampered with, your photos?
I don't know what had happened, but I know there was the pictures that I had taken earlier were still there.
Anthony, when did you learn that there was a video of what happened to your brother?
I learned about the video on Sunday.
And did you see a snapshot, a screenshot from the video?
I did.
Okay. Tell the jury how that happened.
Well, we were there on Sunday, and we were doing a press conference. And we were at the end of the press conference on Sunday, and this gentleman came to me outside of the crowd.
Somebody that you didn't know?
I didn't know him from Tom, Dick, or Harry.
All right.
And he said, I have something to share with you. And when he said, do you have a moment? He was very kind and very courteous. And I said, yes, I do. And when I went with him, I went into my car, and he showed me a snapshot.
And after you saw that, did he take you anywhere?
Yes, he did. He took me up 2 blocks to where I believe it was a restaurant, Dominican restaurant, yes. A Dominican restaurant about 2 blocks up the street.
And what happened at the restaurant?
At the restaurant, I met Santana, and he also had a translator because his English wasn't that well at the time.
Okay. And so was that translator Mr. Williams, Mr. Tywayne Williams that we heard from earlier?
Yes, ma'am, that's who it was.
And that was the first time you'd ever seen or heard of Mr. Santana?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
What was Santana's demeanor when you saw him?
He was scared
How could you tell?
because he was almost shaking and looking around and watching and very nervous.
Okay. And what did you and Mr. Santana do?
Well, he said he wanted to share the video with me. I had my wife with me as well. He said he wanted to share the video with me. And she got on one side of the car, he got in the middle, and I got on the outside. And then he proceeded to show us the video.
After you saw the video, did you want a copy of it?
I did. I wanted a copy really bad because I knew that something wasn't sounding right about the stop and what had happened.
Even before you saw the video?
Even before I saw the video, all we asked for was justice at the beginning.
All right, so you see the video, Santana has it. Do you try to get the video from him?
I asked him for the video. I even offered him some money. And he said, no, I'm not going to give you the video. Let's see what the officer says happened. And
You offered him money.
I offered him money. And he said, let's see what the officer says before we go any further. He said, because if they come clean with what actually happened, there would be no need for us to go any. He was scared, and he knew that we wouldn't have to go any further. But he said, just let us see. And after the report came out on Sunday night, and it was still saying the same thing, a struggle for the taser, on Monday he called me.
And did y'all make arrangements to meet at that point?
Yes, we did.
Okay, and we've heard testimony about that. At some point, you obtained a lawyer for your family?
I did.
Okay. And did y'all meet with Santana again?
Yes, we did.
sometime
That was Monday evening.
later?
Yes, it had to been Monday evening by that time, because after getting straight with the lawyer, our lawyer and everything, and then I proceeded to let him know that it was a video, and then after Santana getting back with us, then I told my lawyer, and then he obtained Santana a lawyer because he was scared and he didn't know what to do. So that later on that evening, he came back and showed my lawyers the video, and then we proceeded from there.
When you proceeded from there, y'all actually downloaded the video, is that
Yes,
right?
they downloaded the video, and after my lawyer downloaded the video, they contacted SLED.
SLED was contacted that night?
That night, that very night.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
Cross-examination?
Good afternoon, Mr. Scott.
Good evening. Ms.
Sorry
Sa-
for your loss.
Thank you, Mr. Savage.
Further, Ms. Wilson?
No, sir.
All right, thank you, sir. You may sit down.
Thank you.
The next witness.
State of call Charles again.
Do you swear affirm the testimony you shall give the court and the jury in the trial in this case to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Swear. Please state your first and last name, spell your last name loudly, clearly, and clearly.
Charles Gent, G-H-E-N-T.
Good afternoon, Lieutenant Gint. Could you please tell our jury where you are employed?
The South Carolina State Law Enforcement Division,
And how long have you been with SLED?
since March of 2008.
And did you have any prior law enforcement experience before joining SLED in 2008?
Yes, I did. Prior to coming to SLED, I was employed as a special agent with the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation, which is essentially North Carolina's version of SLED. I was there for approximately 4 years. Prior to that, I worked at the Mount Pleasant Police Department as a patrol officer and a vice narcotics detective.
What is your current rank at SLED
Lieutenant.
and your current position?
I'm assigned to the Low Country Investigative Services region.
What is investigative services?
General criminal investigations.
Where is the Low Country Regional office located?
In Walterboro, South Carolina.
And does that office service the North Charleston area?
Yes, the Low Country region encompasses 12 counties, including Charleston.
How did you become involved in this investigation? When did you first learn of this incident?
On the date of the incident, April 4th, I was actually heading out of town to visit family. I became aware of it, talked to some agents who were aware of it. Later that evening, I spoke to my supervisor, Captain Ryan Neal, and he gave me a general briefing on it.
And did you become involved in the investigation that weekend, or did you stay out of town?
I was out of town until Sunday evening. I first became involved on the Monday, April the 6th.
And were you briefed by Captain Neal regarding what had happened.
I was.
What did you learn as a result of the briefing?
That there had been an officer-involved shooting in North Charleston. The subject in the case had been shot and was killed.
Were there any concerns regarding the shooting at that time?
There were, particularly in regards to the location of the gunshot wounds on the deceased, as well as the position of the victim's body from the shell casings on scene.
So you returned home. You live in Columbia, is that correct? Or where were you?
Well, no, I had gone up to Rock Hill to visit some family. So.
Okay. And when you returned from Rock Hill, what did you do on Monday morning, which would have been April the 6th?
April the 6th, yes. I met with some other agents. I believe it was at the office area we were using at the Charleston County Sheriff's Office. Met with the case agents, some other agents involved, and we went over what they had and what we needed to do.
Had you been to the scene at that point?
I don't think I had been to it at that point. I did have an opportunity to visit the scene on April 6th with Captain Neal.
So you were able to see the area where the incident occurred, but not right after it occurred?
Correct, yes.
Who'd the case been assigned to?
Special Agent Angela Peterson.
And you were her supervisor, is that correct?
That's correct.
Did y'all have any information that day that the shooting had been captured on video?
We had some just initial speculation or rumor to some degree. There was some information that had come from an employee, I believe at a pawn shop, that he had seen someone possibly filming. There was also a person that could be viewed on Sergeant Gann's in-car camera standing near the officers and the victim.
But that was just speculation at that point?
At that point, it was later that evening, we learned of the existence of
And
the
how
video.
did you learn that there may in fact be a videotape?
Someone in command staff became aware that the family had in their possession a copy of the video.
Did you have anything to do with obtaining a copy of that video?
No, I did not.
Who did?
Special Agent Peterson and Special Agent Chris Barfield.
And do you know when they acquired a copy of that video?
It was on the evening of Monday, April the 6th, 2015.
Okay, moving on to the next morning, which would be Tuesday, April the 7th. What did you do with regard to this investigation?
I again met with some of the agents at the Charleston County Sheriff's Office. We had an opportunity to view the video they had obtained.
Now, at the time that you first saw this video on Tuesday morning, had arrangements already been made to interview the defendant, Michael Slager?
Yes.
And who had made those arrangements?
Special Agent Angela Peterson.
And do you know who she had contacted regarding arranging the interview?
Yes, she had contacted the defendant's then attorney, David Ayler.
Now, who was assigned to conduct the interview of Officer Slager?
Special Agent Peterson and myself.
And where was the interview scheduled to take place?
At the David Ayler Law Offices on Leeds Avenue across from the Charleston County Detention Center.
And at what time, if you recall?
It was scheduled for 11 a.m. on April the 7th, approximately.
Prior to going to this meeting, did you and Agent Peterson discuss whether or not to disclose the video to Mr. Slager or his attorney prior to the interview?
Yes, we did discuss that.
And what did y'all decide?
We decided not to initially disclose the existence of the video or show it.
Why?
But we wanted an opportunity to see if he would tell the truth about the incident. And we were also concerned about the potential that if we began by revealing the existence and or showing the video, that the defendant may choose not to speak and we would get nothing.
Is that unusual in your line of work?
No, it is not.
Is it normal in your line of work to share evidence with a suspect prior to talking to them?
And that's not normal, no.
So what was y'all's plan going into the interview that day?
Well, we had planned to hopefully go in, interview the defendant, and at the end of that, obtain a voluntary, agreed-upon statement in the presence of his attorney, at which point we would possibly show the video and allow the defendant an opportunity to respond.
And was this interview videotaped?
No, it was not.
Why not?
It has not typically been SLED's practice to video interviews of this type, particularly those conducted in an attorney's office. We record those interviews by getting a written, agreed-upon statement at the conclusion of it in the presence of the attorney.
Now, when y'all arrived at Mr. Ayler's office, who did you and Agent Peterson meet with?
The attorney, David Ayler, the defendant, Michael Slager. He's in, I'm sorry, Mr. Ayler's investigator, a man named Levi Miles, was also there.
And where did y'all meet exactly at Mr. Ayler's office?
We met in the front room, but we actually conducted the interview in a conference room there in Mr. Ayler's office.
What did you do first upon meeting with Mr. Slager, Mr. Ayler, and Mr. Miles?
The first action that was taken was to get a voluntary consent to obtain a DNA sample from the defendant
DNA sample in what form?
in the form of a buccal swab.
And did Mr. Slager agree to give you a DNA sample?
Yes, he did.
And did he sign a consent form?
Yes, he did.
Now I'll show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 180. Ask if you recognize this document.
I do.
And what is that?
This is the voluntary consent to search form that was used that day.
Signed by Mr. Slager,
Yes.
consenting to what?
Consenting to swabs of the inner cheeks of the mouth, buccal swabs, for a DNA sample to be used for investigative purposes.
And that was done in the presence of his attorney
Yes.
and witnessed by you and Agent Peterson. Is that
Yes,
correct?
that's correct.
Your Honor, we would offer State's 180.
Submit without objection.
And I believe the buccal swab you obtained from Mr. Slager's already been admitted into evidence, but what happened with that buccal swab between the time you acquired it and the time you turned it over to Ms. Doris Yarborough?
After acquiring it, I packaged it, sealed it, labeled it, and stored it in my vehicle. I have a locked safe in the back of my SLED vehicle. It was stored there until I was able to transport it to SLED headquarters.
And do you recall when that was?
That it was transported?
Yes, when you turned it over to Ms. Yarborough?
I believe it was April the 9th, just before noon.
Now, after you obtained the buccal swab from Officer Slager, what did you do next?
I then advised him of his constitutional rights under Miranda.
And who was present during this?
Again, the defendant, his attorney, Mr. Ayler, and his investigator, Levi Miles, as well as myself and Agent Peterson.
Was Officer Slager in custody at the time?
No, he was not.
Did you use any kind of form to advise Mr. Officer Slager of his rights?
Yes, I used a SLED Miranda rights form.
And I'll hand you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 181. Ask if you recognize that document.
I do.
And what is that?
This is the SLED Miranda rights form that we utilized on the morning of April the 7th, 2015. It is signed by the defendant. It has his initials and the signatures of myself and Agent Peterson.
Okay, and could you demonstrate to the jury how you advised Mr. Officer Slager of his rights?
Yes, by reading the form, and there, at each point on the form, there is a space that can be initialed. The defendant has initialed by each of those points. He's signed at the bottom below the waiver of rights. He has also initialed up where a small correction was made, changing the time from 11:11 p.m. to 11:11 a.m.
And did you advise him he had the right to remain silent?
Yes,
Essentially, did you advise him of each of the rights?
I did. Would you like me to read them, or?
You can, yes, sir.
All right. I advised him that he had the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used in court as evidence against you. You are entitled to talk to a lawyer now and have him present now or at any time during questioning. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed for you without cost. If you decide to answer questions now without a lawyer present, you will still have the right to stop answering at any time. You also have the right to stop answering at any time until you talk to a lawyer. Then ask, do you understand these rights? Do you wish to talk to us at this time?
He initialed all of those.
Yes.
Did he tell you he understood his rights?
Yes.
Did he appear to be under the influence of anything that would prohibit him from understanding what was going on?
No, he did not.
Did he appear to be suffering from any illness?
No.
Did he exhibit any confusion?
No.
After being advised of his rights, did he indicate he was willing to waive them and continue talking to you?
Yes.
And did he sign a written waiver of his rights?
Yes, he did.
That was witnessed by you and Agent Peterson once again, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And that was also in the presence of his attorney.
Yes.
At any time during this process, did you promise, you or Agent Peterson promise him anything?
No.
Threaten him in any way?
No.
Offer him leniency?
No.
Coerce him?
No.
Pressure him?
No.
Make any threats to any family members?
No.
And what time was it when you advised him of his rights?
The time on the form is noted as approximately 11:11 a.m.
Your Honor, we'd offer states 102 into evidence at this time, I believe, without objection.
Leave it without objection.
Pardon me? 181, I believe it is. 181. After obtaining the waiver rights, did you and Agent Peterson interview?
Yes.
Who took the lead on the interview?
Agent Peterson.
And once again, were Mr. Aylen, Mr. Miles, Levi Miles present during this entire incident?
Yes.
While he was being interviewed, did you take notes?
I did.
And did you take those notes contemporaneously with the interview?
Yes, I did.
Again, Angie, what's been marked as state's exhibit? Is that 203?
204.
204. I ask if you recognize that document.
I do.
And do you recall roughly how long this interview with Officer Slager lasted?
We arrived at the office at approximately 11 a.m., carried out the actions that I previously described, actually began talking after the rights form was filled out at approximately 11 a.m. The interview portion concluded at approximately 12:50 p.m., approximately an hour and 40 minutes.
And do those notes accurately reflect what Officer Slager told you on that morning?
Yes, they do.
Now, how did the interview proceed?
We began by obtaining basic biographical information, name, date of birth, address, where he was employed, how long, where he was assigned, and so forth, and then went into allowing him to tell the narrative that he wanted to tell that day.
And how long had he been with North Charleston Police Department?
Approximately 5 years.
And what team was he on?
Central Team 1, day shift that day.
Who were his supervisors?
His normal supervisor was Sergeant Webb. On that day, Sergeant Gann was acting as his supervisor in Webb's stead.
And what did he tell you happened on the morning of April 4th of 2015?
Would you prefer if I read the notes as they?
That would reflect, it was rather lengthy. How many pages of those notes?
It is 12 pages total.
And obviously you don't remember what happened in all 12 pages of those notes, so if you can, if those notes will refresh your recollection as to what's happened, yes, you can do that, I believe.
All right. Okay, on the first page, I note the case number, the times of the buccal swabs and Miranda forms at the top right corner. Put the arrival time 4/7/15 at 11 a.m. Note that it was the David Ayler Law Offices at 3884 Leeds Avenue, North Charleston, South Carolina, 29405. I note in the margins that David Ayler, Special Agent Peterson, I'm sorry. Do I need to?
I think the proper way of doing this would be to refresh his memory and testify, not to testify from the notes, but to use the notes more to refresh his memory.
I think these notes are taken contemporaneously with the interview, Your Honor, that they constitute the statement of the defendant, Michael Slager, that they are admissible under Rule 801D2, and would ask that certainly he cannot memorize verbatim 12 pages of notes. I'd ask that he be able to relate exactly what he was told by Officer Slager.
Mr. Savage.
That's not Michael Slager's statement, that's this officer's statement that he wrote down. He didn't ask Michael Slager to write down the statement. And is it permissible for him to testify of that statement, but just what he remembers that took place that day?
I sustain the objection as to the verbatim reading of the officer's notes.
Okay.
All right.
May the officer refer to his notes during his rendition of what occurred to refresh his recollection.
Pardon?
May the officer refer to his notes when needed during the
You're
rendition.
examining the witness. I've ruled on the objection. I don't give advisory opinions. You may proceed.
What did he tell you happened, sir?
All right, he said that on that day, his supervisor was Sergeant Webb. Sergeant Gann was his supervisor acting in Sergeant Webb's stead. He was on Central Team 1 day shift. He was driving down Remount Road and the westbound lane, Rivers Avenue, heading towards Rivers Avenue. There was a vehicle in front of him. It was a gray and color Mercedes. He noticed that the third brake light on that car, the middle one in the back window, was out. He called out 223 dispatch traffic stop, gray Mercedes, called out the tag and location, and then hit the number 3 button that activates his license siren. The stop was in the area of Remount and Dakota Street. He hit the blue lights, siren, vehicle yielded to the middle lane. He then hit the second button, which was just blue lights. They turned into what he referred to as the AutoZone parking lot. It was later corrected to be the Advance Auto. The AutoZone parking lot. He later corrected that to be the Advance Auto parking lot. They turned in facing Craig Street. He got out of his vehicle, asked for his license, registration, insurance, introduced himself as Officer Slager, North Charleston, saw that the driver was sitting there with both hands in his pockets. Passenger was doing nothing. He's by the door panel at an angle. The driver was reaching into his pocket, said he didn't have his insurance card or registration. Just bought the vehicle, didn't have it. He said, okay, let's start with your license. He handed me his license, put it in his duty belt like he did with all other licenses.
Your Honor, he's reading from the statement.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to give you a brief break. Please do not discuss the case. Can you hear your objection again?
Your Honor, the state has offered this under 801D, which is not applicable in this
Yeah, I
situation.
ruled on that objection. Yes, sir.
My objection at this time is the same, that this witness is not refreshing his memory, but merely reading from the statement.
All right, response.
Your Honor, I believe that even though that this is not a written statement signed by his client, it is his client's statement. And that it is admissible as such under 801D2 as, and it's not hearsay as an admission by a party opponent.
You said the officer's notes, you believe, is the defendant's statement,
Exactly.
and therefore admissible under 801D2
801D2
as a statement of the defendant.
as a statement of the defendant.
And do you have some authority that supports that argument?
I do not have authority that supports it other than what the rule says.
The statement is not the defendant's statement, it's the officer. The officer's notes would be the officer's statement. The officer can refer to his notes in testifying. It's not admissible as the defendant's statement.
And I,
The objection, as I thought I heard it coming from Mr. Savage, was that he's reading, I don't know if you said he's reading the statement or reading his notes. What did you say?
I'm reading either one. That is his statement, and those are his notes, so however the court would like to refer to them, that's not Michael Slager's statement.
I agree with you there, but the officer can use his notes to assist him in testifying.
Fine, I don't object.
But it's not, the basis will not be that it's Mr. Slager's statement. There is no signed statement. He gave you an oral statement. And you know, this is not new for, shouldn't be new for anyone.
no, it's not new, Your Honor.
All right. Well, let's take a couple of minutes, and he can use his notes to assist him in testifying, as he's doing. All right.